should be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's necessary, man, to do the family stuff.
Yeah, so I'm trying to do that, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. We're rolling. Good to go. You good, my guy?
I'm good, man. Yourself?
Good, man. Welcome, bro.
Thank you.
Mr. Sihle Mkhize. Man, like you and I have known each other for a while now, since what, like 2012, 2013, yeah?
Yeah, since early on in my career as well. Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah. No, you and I took very different paths, so I think, like 2-3 years after we met, I decided to dip out of corporate. You, on the other hand, have kind of stuck it out and worked your way up through the ranks, yeah?
I didn't think, to be honest, that would be my roots as well. I thought I'd dip out and do something else. But yeah, it's happened to be that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had different paths, but still within vicinity.
Yeah. What's the thing that's kind of, because like from our chats early on, like I think we were both quite entrepreneurially minded, like, and I was expecting for you as well, probably like a couple of years down the line to make that switch over into that space.
Yeah.
Like, what's the key thing that's kind of kept you in the corporate space?
Look, I think progress. I've always valued just getting to something where I'm learning. Something where it's new. So I was lucky to, every 18 months, 24 months, get to something new that's helping me learn and grow and progress. So it helps when you sort of move up the ladder. And also, I guess, also family, right? So there's always been, I think from the time we met, I was already with my now wife. At that time, we were dating. And there was always this, how do we work this thing out that for yourself and myself, you've got your corporate thing, I've got my corporate thing, and how does it work out? So she had her own ideas about what she wants to do, and sort of the discussion was, I stay the corporate role, and she gets a chance to do some things that are, on her radar. And so it's just worked that way. To be honest, I didn't plan it, from someone in the outside, it looks like, man, this guy's planned his career. It's been like, this linear progression. Somewhere in there, the dots got filled in, and I'm sort of, I'm happy with the way things went.
Okay. And I'm quite interested in the bit that you mentioned around, like throughout your career, like every 18 to 24 months, there's been a switch into something that keeps you developing and keeps you interested in it. Has that been like an intentional progression? You speak about you didn't necessarily like plan it out. Has it been like an intentional progression, or has it just been a case of being in the right places at the right time to find those opportunities?
It's a bit of both, but I think more intentional. So I was lucky to find someone early on that helped me guide my career, right? So I reached out, I think Utabani, early on in my career, and someone that helped guide me. A couple of other people reached into me and said, look, we think you've got potential. This is the way that you can go. And a couple of other senior leaders at the time who you also saw potential in me and like reached into me. So that's one, I got the right people around me. So I always had sort of a 2 to 5 year framework on where I want to be. When I look back, some of that was, really inaccurate. You can imagine someone who's wet behind the ears, still junior, has a view of where they're going to be 10, 15 years from now and how to get there. Things change over time. But at least it helped me shape my next 2 to 4 years. So that, the broad brush strokes, I knew where I want to go, and then I can shape, things where people who are having conversations about me know where I want to go. And if I'm performing, there's a likelihood of me getting there. So there was intentionality. And as I grew and as I knew how corporate works and how to get into the right places, and how to make myself noticed, it became more and more accurate. So there was intentionality. And then there was a bit of being in the right place at the right time. So when opportunities came up and you're in the right place, you've positioned yourself to be considered. So it's a bit of both. I think everybody to progress needs a little bit of you know, it's a bit of God's hand and blessing that just puts them in the right place.
Yeah. And like there's so much that you said in there that like it's easy to sort of miss, like in terms of how you spoke through it, but like there's a couple of key things in there for me which I like. There's similarities in terms of the key things that help that progression is, you know, like making sure that you've got the right people around you and the right kind of people backing you and building those relationships. Secondly, making sure that you aren't rigid in your approach to, I need to get from point A to point B, because that rigidness can very quickly frustrate you. But on the back of that, having a clear idea of where you want to get to, right? So it's, you know that you want to get from point A to point B. You don't know how, but it's, you know, you want to get there, and being able to openly express that, because a lot of the times where the random opportunities do find you, it's not as random as you might think. It's because you put it out there to someone who one day found themselves in a position to influence, and that's how that ends up coming along, man. So like for you, what would you say were the key things in terms of building those relationships? Yes, there was the you did what you needed to do to get in front of these people, but how did you maintain those relationships? How did you engage and interact in order to grow those relationships?
To be honest, I'm still working on that. My relationship building is something that takes effort for me, because it's against my natural persona. I'm someone who likes to keep to themselves, more of an introvert actually. So it was intentionality in a sense of how do I build relationships from even on a social aspect. So at the time, for example, we had a soccer team in the company. I joined the soccer team. I thought, look, you know, this is one way to connect and hang out with the guys. There was always certain things that were extra that the company offered. So there's a particular outreach, there's a particular thing. So I think it helps sometimes to remove the title of the person that you're dealing with, and then be able to know someone personally, and then you're able to draw connections, and then there's the ability for someone to vouch for you because they know you. There's a level of trust that is more than just them seeing you in a project, them seeing you deliver a particular result. We still deal with people, and I think corporate is significantly driven by relationships. Because once you're in a pool of people that are performing, there's got to be something else that makes someone else choose you over another person. And many times, the things that people would want to identify in an interview, they can see through you in a personal connect. They can see you're taking initiative. They can see how you think. They can see that they can trust you. And then we also enjoy working with people we like. So I think it was just that, in really getting out of my shell and trying to engage and connect with people and build a little bit of a relationship socially. Outside of the office, and again there I think I've gotten better over time. So there was a little bit of intentionality there, and then it just so happened to be that natural relationships formed, right? So many of these people that were my seniors and people that I was trying to build a relationship to grow corporately are now my friends, and that's a blessing to have. So that happened organically, and it just continued from there.
Nice, man. And I think like it's one of those things that I always tell people, especially like early on in their careers, where you're still in that stage where like you've got the energy and you're chomping at the bit to kind of show your worth and show what you're capable of, and trying to climb up as fast as possible. And people kind of forget that social aspect to it. And one of the things I always say to people is that the people who today 12, 15 years into my career, I'm able to call head of this, director of that. Those are people that I started off with, like training program level. We were trainees together. We had relationships before anyone was in a position to do anything for me, before I was in a position to do anything for them, right? And it was relationships that developed organically. There was some intention behind it, but it was never, ooh, one day this person is going to be able to do this for me. Ooh, one day this person is going to open these doors, etc., etc. And I think it's such an important thing that, especially when you're still early on, like, take the time to just experience the journey and share that journey with the people that are around you, because 5, 10, 15 years down the line, like you say, those are the people that will pick up the phone and vouch for you, and those are the things that make that key difference when you're sitting in a corporate role. You
know, you touched on an important point. If I look back, I didn't have a clear view of the long run, right? And I think if I could dial back time, there's a couple of things I probably could have done better by having a clearer view of the long run. So you know, there was you know, actions and choices I'd make knowing that they'd benefit me in the long run. But that wasn't very clear. So what do I mean by that? Is exactly this point that you just said. Is you know, networks, relationships, senior leaders, 10 years down the line, what could they be, you know, and how would that work? A lot of the time it was, you know, taking some actions for benefit that I could achieve in 12 months, 18 months from now. While, you know, it's probably still worked out, but there probably could have been a strong intentionality on reaching out in other spaces even, knowing, you know, having more of a long run view of things. So that probably is one thing I could have done differently.
Okay. And then how, like in terms of that longer term view, like if don't know how to ask the question, but like how would you propose someone have that outlook? So does that change as you're going through the various phases of your career, or is it like you always need to have like a 10-year view, a 5-year view, and a 12-month view type thing? How would you suggest someone go about that, depending on where they're at?
Look, I think it's not a perfect science. It's okay to change, but I would say have a firm view. And then that firm view can change. The problem is not having a firm view, because then what action are you taking, and what kind of conviction can you have if you don't have a firm view? So have a firm view of what your short, mid, long term looks like. The timings don't really matter. Your you know, short term could be less than 2 years, mid term could be 5 years, long term could be 10 years. To some people it might change. And then how do you want to get there, and make intentional steps to get there? So from you know, more corporate actions. So some people, you know, there's people I've worked with along the line where they need, you know, work on how they communicate. That's you know, a lot more corporate action. I've got to do some training. I've got to go on some courses. To relationship building. To say, look, I'd like to be in this space, you know, 10 years from now. And at times, how you can learn a space is actually interacting with people who are in that space consistently. You may learn more from people and interactions than you can from a textbook, especially in corporate. Because once you're in corporate, you know, I absolutely value executive education, but sometimes the experience that you're having with people can help you learn all those things. So I would say it's the intentionality, then there'll be the formal actions, and then it'll be what spaces do you get yourself into to learn about that space, such that, especially for a lot of people who want to pivot, a lot of us need to pivot, right? So, you know, if I look back, my career has mainly been in sales, but I didn't see myself as a specialist in sales. I see myself as more of a generalist, as a strategy guy, more of a general manager. So there is some sort of pivot that I needed to do at some stage, and there's other areas which I needed to show an inclination towards. You know, so that someone can be in a room and not say, well, you know, this guy is too operational. This guy is too this. I could come across as somebody who is strong with financials, and that was one area that I wanted to build in myself as an example. And so that would be it. I think be intentional about it, have a view of what your short-term, mid-term, long-term looks like, and don't just focus on the corporate actions. People are great at saying, I signed up for this training, I went on this course, but actually understand what it means on a day-to-day on that particular thing.
Yes.
And I think the social might help you even more.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think something that I wanna hone in on. I'd love to get your perspective in terms of your personal experience, but then we can also then use it to switch over into like from a more organizational perspective, right?
Yeah.
The piece you mentioned about having an ability to pivot, I think is critical, and the context for why I think it's critical is, in my view, yes, you can be a specialist and you can be the person that goes deep into an area of knowledge, and there's always going to be room for those sorts of people in organizations and society as a whole, right? But I think where you find the people that add the most value, it's those people who are able to connect the dots between different areas of specialization, where you've got someone who's got a financial and a legal background and they also understand marketing, or someone who knows information technology, but they've also got a knack for the commercial side of things with the strategy, where now they can start doing things that combine these different areas of specialization, and sort of bring things together in a process that someone who's a specialist might not be able to see. For you, like how was that transition when you have pivoted into different sorts of roles and done all of these different generalizations? Like, how did you manage those switches? Like when you got a role that put you out of your comfort zone, like how did you get to a point of actually I'm going to do this, as opposed to no, this isn't in my wheelhouse?
So firstly, I think this. Let me start with a specialist thing. I think in my view, successful companies are run by having strong specialists.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
So because each function, each area of specialization is top notch. So and even in that, there's parts of pivoting, right? Yes. Because as you get into the depth, marketing has different facets to it. Whatever you are talking about, finance has different facets to it. So I think the point is relevant whether you're a specialist or a generalist, right? So, but to get back then to the generalist or the somebody who can connect the dots, and how I transitioned. Firstly, I think it's there's a personal drive for excellence, right? And I mean, we developed this thing over a period of time, but I think there's a personal drive for excellence. I really don't enjoy not knowing stuff. I don't. So my first couple of months in a role are not easy, and time again, I find myself to having gone more than what was expected. People will say, no, you're doing fine, and I don't feel like I'm doing fine. So there's a personal element on that. So that's one. But very early on, somebody shared and I can't remember the exact name of the book, but it goes something like The First 90 Days, right? So it speaks about, how you've got to balance the long term. So in your role, whether it's 2 years or not, or 5 years, there's a little bit about what you got to achieve in the full-on assignment or role. But then also the low-hanging fruit that you can get results immediately, right? So I took that to heart. Like, that book really helped me about how do you land and get in a role where in 90 days people are like, Sihle's got this. And it's not just about people, it's for myself, right? So that's one. There's things that you can put in place, systems, processes, a couple of key nuggets about how the big things can you can understand at a high level and land with. So that's one. So I would say there's a couple of corporate and management principles that you can utilize. And then for me, I really enjoyed starting to be able to connect the dots, right? So anything that was new to me and I felt was quite important, I'd note that down and I'd connect myself with a peer who I could learn with, right? And I think many people struggle to do that. So I remember one of the roles when I changed at P&G was moving from sales to market strategy. There was someone in marketing who was actually 2 years my junior, but really a sharp guy, right? And I said, I want to just connect with this guy and I'm going to learn stuff from him. And people sometimes shy away from doing that because, you know, at that time I was, you know, 1 grade ahead of that person. You know, there could be all sorts of things why people don't do that. So I encourage people to tap in and say, look, what is this thing I want to learn, and then tap in. And it was the same for, you know, finances and things like that, where at times I tapped into people who were my peer or even junior, where I said, look, I want to learn this thing. And in a conversation, I actually want to contribute to an area that is outside of my specialization. And I started to be able to do that. I started to be able to, you know, contribute to conversations that were pure marketing, where people didn't expect me to have a say when I come from a sales background. I started to be able to contribute to what strategy will have a better financial impact. When people thought, well, your role is actually just to be able to execute the selling strategy. And that started to get people to view me in a different light, and that helped me to progress a little bit faster.
Awesome. And I think, the same story, like where I've had the best growth in my career in terms of personal development and also progression has been coming from the fact that you are able to add value across multiple streams, and that all comes down to actively and consciously building those relationships. I think what I'd like to switch over to is now speaking from the perspective of a people manager, right? So like I love the thing you mentioned about the giving yourself 90 days, like that first 3 months to settle into a situation and having a game plan for, like, this is what's happening in the first 90 days in order to start effectively delivering value. How would that translate when you are now coming along, instead of as a person that's managing themselves, to now you're managing a team or an organization? Like how do you apply those principles, firstly to yourself and then secondly to your team as well?
Look, I think it's consistent. You just the difference when you start managing is leadership is consistent regardless of what level you're in, because you the first part is you've got to be leading self. If you're not leading self, then you're not performing to your best. Then you start to lead others. Even if you don't have someone who's reporting into you, you've got to be influencing around you. So that's leading others. And then you get to a level where you are maybe managing a team or managing an organization. So I have the privilege now of managing a department. For me, the first thing is to understand the people, right? So in this role, as an example that I'm in my first 30 days, it was my intention to meet everybody for a coffee, 1-to-1, and that's what I did in my first 30 days. And you have a casual chat. You start to peel the onion. There's layers, right? There's layers to people, and that face to face is incredible when you're working with people for the first time, because they've understood you from, especially in today's age, from a Zoom call or a Teams call. There's a perception about you. There's just stuff that can either help or hinder how you work together. So that was it. Break the ice, and then you start to build a relationship. My view is we all come from two mindsets. A thriving mindset or a survivalist mindset when we work in an organization. And if I can help people continue in a thriving mindset, if they are there, great. And if I can shift them from a survivalist mindset to a thriving mindset, then that's great. And as a leader, I play a key role, because if people think Sihle is here, my God, things are going to be tough, that shifts them into a surviving mindset, or maybe they were already there and they go deeper into that. Or if people think Sihle is here, great. So that's one thing I then see, how can I help with that. And then if I can sort of share my thoughts and my vision, because I think at times, leaders take long to share what they are thinking.
Yes.
The reality is, when you take over a department, you're there to move the needle.
Yeah.
Whether it's transforming, whether it's accelerating, whether it's turning around, you're there to move the needle.
Yeah.
And sharing in a way that obviously is respectful, acknowledges people's work from what they've done before. But these are areas where we are successful on, and I'm going to accelerate in this particular way.
Yeah.
Or these are areas where we need transformation,
yeah.
and this is what we'd like to do. Get everybody on board as quick as possible, and then show them as well, what does that 30, 60, 90-day plan look like?
Yeah.
Now, not everybody thinks in the same way. So the first time you share that, people say, is this guy mad? Is he expecting to do this in 30 days, right? And so there's parts of that. So what I do at times is I don't share the timelines, right?
Yeah.
I share more of a motivation of let's really try to accelerate and what's in it for us.
Yeah.
And that thing matters.
Yeah.
When you can understand what are people's motivations and what's in it for them. Because if you can link your plan, the functions plan, the business's plan to people's motivations, then you start to get a connection in place. And if you can empathize with them and then link what it is that they're looking for to the business aspirations, your aspirations, that's good.
Yeah.
Now, I can't profess to say I get that right all the time. But I try to get that right. And then trying to find a way where your leadership team, because I obviously have a leadership team that links into me, who actually lead the function. I lead the leadership team. If your leadership team can get that going as well, then that matters. So it's really about how do you, in a short space of time, plant a seed that will grow into how you want things to function or how you foresee things to function, and then take the flavor that's existing and see how that plays a role where it becomes them running it in future.
Gotcha.
It's not easy to do in 90 days, but that's the thinking.
Okay. And then if you sort of had to put down like a 3-part framework, right, in terms of like these are the 3 key pillars of sharing a functional vision in order to get people to be clear about where you are planning on going and the motivation in terms of what's in it for them. Like what would you say the 3 key components would be of that?
That's a interesting one. You're forcing me to be concise, which is good. I think the first piece is understanding the organization. When I say organization, whether you're in a finance department, etc., but you've got a role to link into the broader organizational direction and strategy. If you can articulate the organization's direction and strategy, and how your function and you as an individual play a role very well, that's point number 1. People have to have a line of sight of what they're doing day to day, links into the organization's strategy and direction. What I find a lot of the times is people are busy with tasks. I'm yet to get a day in my career where I say I've finished everything. You don't finish, you just don't finish the work. But you can, and you should be getting days where you say, I added value. And the way that you know how you added value is line of sight, my particular role, how it links right up to when my CEO stands, whether I'm in a JSE listed company, and says, this is what we've done well and this is where we're going. And you can say, in my role, how I contributed to that. So that's point number 1. If you can give people a very clear line of sight. Point number 2, if you can give people a sense of urgency and it can be done, right? Because the moment you come in and you give a bigger and bolder ambition, it's human nature. People say, well, we've been doing this and we've struggled. We've been trying and we've struggled. What makes you so special? They might not vocalize it. But if you can give them how it can be done, and so it's important in your first 90 days, to give them a couple of low-hanging fruit where they attain results themselves. So give them a sign of it can be done, and then they become part of the thinking of how to accelerate. So point number 2, low-hanging fruit in the first 90 days, where people attain results themselves and they become part of the succession themselves.
Yeah.
Then the last piece is what's in it for them.
Yeah.
Right? So people don't care about your ambitions and how what's in it for them. So if you set a very clear mark about whether it's your function, whether it's their role, whether it's them as an individual, if we achieve success, how does it link into their aspirations?
Yeah.
I think that helps.
Yeah.
Then you start to get people going and running for you.
Yeah.
Then actually you chasing them all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's very helpful, man. And I think just to kind of close it out, so these conversations are aimed at sort of like two audiences. The one audience is people who are trying to get businesses up and running, but also the other audience is people who have aspirations to get into leadership positions in an organization. So you can sort of switch between how you answer the question, but essentially if you were to give someone in a situation where they are leading an organization, be it getting a team off the ground or plugging into a large corporate, like what is the one thing you would say they should make a priority in terms of getting that organization up and running?
Yeah. So let me start firstly from as an individual, right?
Yeah.
So if you're trying to accelerate in your career, it really would be have a very clear plan, understand what outperformance looks like.
Yeah.
Many people meet expectation and they say I'm not performing. But the idea is that the entire function should be meeting expectation.
Yeah.
And so we can't promote the entire function.
Yeah.
It sounds like a very simple point,
Yeah.
but understanding what outperformance looks like is an important point, and then get people who can help you along, right?
Okay.
Seniors. So that would be one.
Yeah.
If you're leading a function, it really would be sensing the pulse and the mood of the function. If you're starting to lead a function, that point about people are either in a survivalist mindset or a thriving mindset is really key.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the one who's joking a lot, the one who says who's loving the company a lot, that's a front. Deep down, they just worried about, am I going to keep my job? There was some politics that happened to them some time ago. And that impacts how they perform, because if you're leading a function, you perform through people. It's about you actually just motivating them. You are encouraging them, and you are giving direction. But you're not doing the day-to-day job. And so the output that people give really does come from a place where, when you're surviving, you're really delivering work that maybe is covering your tracks, that's limiting risk. Where actually someone who's thriving, you actually want to make them to take calculated risk. Nobody ever beat their competition without taking risk.
100%.
And so you want all of your people to be taking calculated risk, because that's what's going to make you, beat competition. So that for me would be the first piece. Understand your people, and how can you get them into a thriving mindset, and then the other things will start to form through, which I've mentioned earlier on.
Okay. And I know I said we're closing it out, but just like you said something in there that had me curious in a different direction. Like, so you're an organizational leader for a multinational operating on the African continent. And you spoke about calculated risk, and I think there's a big conversation now about people talking about, hey, I'm going to Europe, I'm going to Canada, what. Being here is effectively a calculated risk on some level or another. Like, what's the thing that's keeping you positive? Like, where do you think this place is going, and how do you think we're going to unlock some of that stuff? Just as out of curiosity, to get your perspective.
Yeah, look, I think I've had it's been a pleasure and a blessing to be able to engage with a lot of people from outside of South Africa. And I had a blessing to be in Dubai for 2 years and traveled a bit. So the first thing is the more I've traveled and the more I've engaged with other people, the more I've realized what a great country we have. And I'll be honest, and there was a time where I thought, sure, there's so many things that are going wrong, and my mindset went down the wrong path.
Yeah.
But the more I got exposed to other countries and the rest of the world, I realized what a great country we have.
Yeah.
And so I realized many South Africans don't have the opportunity to travel out. And so we have a view that is based on just how we are looking. So that's the first piece is you know, through a lot of exposure, I realized what a great country we have.
Yeah.
But having said that, I understand that, you know, the dichotomy is such that people, even in South Africa, live such different lives. I come from a more privileged position where my experience of South Africa is maybe very different to other people out there. So, so I get that as well. You know, my advice to people would be, I think you can make out of it what you want it to be, right? Because the same place you're going to, and I don't know where people are going to, but you know, I had time in Dubai, and I saw parts of Dubai which you don't see on social media. You really are like, wow. I've traveled to many you know, developing countries where it looks like in the media, wow, you know, I've been to the likes of India, I've been to the likes of Saudi Arabia, and you realize you're trading off something. Either you're trading off freedom, as an example. We have such freedom in South Africa that you actually don't even realize that's a benefit. You get somewhere else, things are working, but you're not free. So there's many things that sometimes we don't take a step back and realize. Only once you're in a different society do you realize. So I would say probably just read, research. Then you understand more than what's in the social media about another country, which obviously you're comparing South Africa to another country. What does that look like? You know, I also got a chance to travel to Turkey, as an example, as a lot of people there aren't leaving. They've got similar issues, right? Maybe safety is a lot better, but inflation, unemployment is a lot less, I get that, but similar issues. But what they do is they know a lot about their country, and they know a lot about other societies, and then they know how to compare. Potentially sometimes we are only inward looking, so we don't have a fair comparison. Because anything you compare to social media, it's even the, you know, when you look at my life on social media, you're like, wow, this guy's got such a great life. Then you sit and like, whoa, this guy's got the same problems with his kids as I have as well. So that would be, for me, just understanding a little bit more. Then you start to realize some of the good things we have in South Africa, and you can make a more informed decision. That would be for me my recommendation to people.
Stay in the damn country and fix it, guys. Bro, thanks so much for pulling through. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I've enjoyed the chat. Thanks.
That's been a good one. Cool.